Okay, welcome back to my session, students. In the last class we discussed about pre-fertilization events like gametogenesis and gamete transfer, and in today's session we are discussing that continuation part called fertilization, and even we discussing today about post-fertilization events. And what is fertilization? So fertilization does not mean that it is a fusion of gametes, results in the formation of diploid zygote. As we know very well, the male gamete called sperm and female gamete called an egg. So both they are in a haploid condition. If these two gametes are fused together, it forms a diploid zygote. And in some organisms like in rotifers and in honeybees and some lizards and turkey bird and etc. And these organisms, they exhibit what the parthenogenesis phenomenon. Then what does it mean of parthenogenesis? Nothing but in these organisms where the female gamete undergoes development without fertilization to form a new organism, it is called a parthenogenesis, or the phenomenon is called a parthenogenesis. In simple way you can define the parthenogenesis is that the female gamete undergoes development without fertilization is called parthenogenesis. So here it is very important that you need to write an example. So example here we mentioned in the PPT. So in rotifer or honeybee or some lizard and some turkey bird are the best examples to the parthenogenesis process. And let us discuss in detail when we are going to discuss about this fertilization process in as a part. So we can see the two types of fertilization, that internal fertilization and external fertilization. The name again it clearly explains that. The fertilization means, already I told you that the fusion of male and female gametes is called fertilization. That is a fertilization. Here we are mentioning that internal means the fission of gametes, it takes place inside the body of an organism is called an internal fertilization. So in the same way, the external fertilization means the fission of male and female gamete outside the body of an organism is called external fertilization. So let us discuss in detail about the sentinel fertilization. Here the syngamy occurs inside the body of organism. Example, terrestrial organisms belonging to fungi. Animals like means higher animals or higher organisms, we can say that reptiles, birds, mammals and plants like bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. In these organisms we can see the internal fertilization. In this, non-motile male gamete is formed inside the female body to where the motile male gametes reaches and fuses to achieve a fertilization phenomenon. In seed plants, the non-motile male gametes are carried to female gamete by a pollen tubes, and there is a large number of sperms produced, but the number of eggs is very low, because here already we discussed the female gamete is stationary or non-motile. So hence it will be always constant, and where the male gametes that are produced in large numbers to achieve the fertilization phenomenon. So in case of higher organisms we can say that is a insemination process. During the sperm ejection there is a large number of male gametes are produced to achieve the fertilization process. But in case of plants, even the large number of pollen grains are released. Means pollen grains are nothing but the male gametes, and large number of pollen grains when they release, they carried by a wind or a water. So by any media they may reach the stigma of that flower, and through by stigma where the pollen grain, it forms a pollen tube through by stalk, and finally it is a style, and through by style it forms the pollen tube, and finally it reaches the ovary. Okay, next we can discuss about an external fertilization. The syngamy occurs in external medium. So means the fusion of male and female gametes, it takes place outside the body of an organism in a media. So there is a media called water. Means water and ನಮಗೆ ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ದ ಅಕ್ವಾಟಿಕ್ ಆರ್ಗಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸಿಬಿಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್. So that is zygote is formed outside the body, definitely. And because the fusion of gametes takes place outside the body means always again the zygote is also has to be formed outside the body of an organisms. Example, the most aquatic organisms, many algae, bony fishes, etc. and amphibians and fishes, and such organisms show a synchrony between the sexes and release a large number of gametes into the surrounding medium to ensure syngamy. It doesn't mean that it under synchronization andre ಮೇಲು ಮತ್ತು ಫೀಮೇಲು ಸೈಮಲ್ಟೇನಿಯಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ವಾಟರ್ ಮೀಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಕಾರಣ ಇಷ್ಟೇ, ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಚಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರೋ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಆ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವುಗಳು ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಹಂಗಂದ್ರೆ ಡಿಸ್ಅಡ್ವಾಂಟೇಜಸ್ ಏನಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಇದು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿಗೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ರೈಟ್ ಒನ್ ಡಿಸ್ಅಡ್ವಾಂಟೇಜ್ ಬೈ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಅವಾಗ ನೀವು ಡಿಸ್ಅಡ್ವಾಂಟೇಜ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಏನು ಬರೀಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ದ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಪ್ರಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೀಮ್ಲಿ ವಲ್ನರಬಲ್ ಟು predators, threatening their survival up to adulthood. Obviously, in next we can discuss about post-fertilization events ಒಳಗಡೆ zygote. In organisms with a haplontic life cycle, the zygote divides by meiosis into haploid spores that grow into haploid individual. Sexually reproducing organisms begin life as a zygote. So zygote is the vital link between organisms of one generation and to the next. So obviously all sexually reproducing organisms definitely they exhibit a zygote formation, means post fertilization event. So that is what we are given. The definition to these concepts is that events in sexual reproduction. So this is also a major part. In organisms with a haplontic life cycle, the zygote divides by meiosis and they produces the haploid spores and that grow into a new haploid individual. So like a sexually reproducing organisms begin life as a zygote. And zygote is the vital link between organisms of one generation to the next generation. So means if there is no formation of zygote, there is no continuation of any organisms of their generation. And next you can see the embryogenesis. Again the name that very clearly it explains that embryogenesis formation. So here after zygote the embryo it forms and it develops. It is the development of embryo from the zygote. So during embryogenesis, zygote undergoes cell division and cell differentiation. So these two important key terms in embryogenesis, cell division and cell differentiation. It is very simple, as we already discussed in first PUC, that cell division helps to increase in a cell number and cell differentiation it helps to the formation of tissues and organs in a growing embryo. So these two are very technical key terms that are important to explain the embryogenesis. So during embryogenesis, zygote undergoes cell division and cell differentiation. The cell division it increases the number of cells in the embryos, and cell differentiation it causes the modifications of groups of cells into various tissues and organs to form an organism. So based on the place of zygote, the development of animals are of two types, oviparous and next one is called an eviparous. And what are oviparous and viviparous? So oviparous, again it ovum or egg. So means here animals lay fertilized or unfertilized eggs. An example, in reptiles and birds, the fertilized eggs covered by hard calcareous shell are laid in a safe place. After incubation, the young ones hatch out and embryogenesis occurs. So oviparous, simple ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ egg laying animals are called oviparous. That's all. And viviparous, the organisms which directly gives birth to their young ones. It's called an viviparous. Here the zygote develops into a young one inside the female body, and later the young ones are delivered out of the body. Example of the most of the mammals. So because of proper care and protection, the chances of survival of young ones are greater in viviparous animals. So this, once you please compare these two. In oviparous animals only there are certain predators and there is a chance of reducing their population size, but here there is a proper care inside the body of an organism. They can protect their organisms and they can continue their generation. So this is what about an oviparous and viviparous. So I hope you understood the complete concept regarding the fertilization and post-fertilization events. And so today the first chapter is over and we can meet in the next session with a new chapter. And until that, take care. Please always remember that study for knowledge, not for marks. Bye.